There are albums, and then there are monoliths. There are songs, and then there are entire self-contained worlds. In the sprawling, ambitious, and often maddeningly complex cathedral of progressive rock, one album stands apart, not just as a pillar, but as a gargantuan, daunting, and frequently misunderstood peak. It is the genre's Mount Everest, a challenge that has sent countless casual listeners scrambling back down to the safety of base camp, convinced the summit is unreachable, perhaps even non-existent. That album is Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes. Released in 1973 to a hailstorm of critical derision and fan bewilderment, this double LP, comprising 4 side-long tracks, has been labeled pretentious, bloated, self-indulgent, and directionless. And let's be brutally honest from the outset. In some respects, the critics were not entirely wrong, but their colossal error was in mistaking the scale of the ambition for a failure of execution. They saw a dense forest and refused to believe it contained any paths. They saw a vast ocean and complained it was too wet. They failed to understand that this was not music to be consumed, but an environment to be inhabited. They were given a map to a hidden continent and treated it like a fast food menu. Today, we are going to correct that historical injustice. I am not here to tell you that this album is easy listening. It is not. I am here to give you the tools, the mindset, and the historical context to hear it not as its detractors did, but as its creators intended. I am here to hand you the key that unlocks its formidable gates, because beyond them lies one of the most rewarding, immersive, and transcendent experiences in the history of recorded music. This is your guide to conquering tales from topographic oceans. Welcome to Psych Prog, the channel where we don't just skim the surface of psychedelic and progressive music. We perform a full archaeological dig. If you believe that music can be more than background noise, that it can be art of the highest order, then you have found your tribe. Do us a favor and subscribe to the channel. Click the like button, and prepare to share this with anyone you know who has ever bounced off this record. Your journey begins now. First, let's dispense with the most significant piece of baggage you are likely carrying: the weight of popular opinion. To properly approach tales, you must perform a kind of mental exorcism. You must cast out the cynical voices of 1970s rock journalists who, raised on a diet of 3-minute blues rock shuffles, were simply not equipped to process a work of this magnitude. You must ignore the forum trolls and the casual listeners who dismiss it with a lazy wave of the hand. You must come to it as a blank slate, an explorer stepping onto the shore of a new world for the first time, free from preconceived notions of what a rock album should be. This is not a rock album. It is a piece of symphonic spiritual cartography set to music. Grant it the respect of a fresh perspective. Do not listen with borrowed ears. This requires a practical commitment. This is not music for the car, for the gym, or for doing your taxes. Attempting to absorb tales from topographic oceans in fragmented, distracted bursts is like trying to appreciate the Sistine Chapel by looking at 1 square inch at a time through a keyhole while running on a treadmill. It is an exercise in futility. You must set aside the time, a full, uninterrupted 81 minutes. Find the best sound system you have access to. I'm not talking about earbuds or a Bluetooth speaker. I mean a proper hi-fi system with a decent amplifier and a pair of capable stereo speakers, or at the very least, a superb pair of over-ear closed-back headphones. This is music of immense dynamic range and textural detail. The thunder of Chris Squire's Rickenbacker bass and the crystalline shimmer of Steve Howe's acoustic guitar need space to breathe. You need to feel Alan White's kick drum in your chest and hear the delicate decay of Rick Wakeman's Moog synthesizers in the air around you. Treat this as you would a concert or a film premiere. Turn off your phone, dim the lights, settle in. This is an appointment with the sublime, and you must not be late or distracted. Now that the stage is set, we must understand the genesis of this beast. Without this context, the music can indeed feel arbitrary. The story is now legend among yes cognoscenti, but it bears repeating for the uninitiated. The conceptual seed was planted in the mind of vocalist John Anderson at the wedding of drummer Bill Bruford. In a moment of quiet, he was reading Paramahansa Yogananda's spiritual classic, Autobiography of a Yogi. A footnote in the book described the 4-part structure of the Shastric scriptures, which deal with the totality of Hindu spiritual life and knowledge. For Anderson, whose lyrics had always strived for the cosmic and the ethereal, this was a lightning bolt of revelation. Here was a framework, a grand, ancient, all-encompassing structure, upon which he could hang his most ambitious musical and lyrical ideas. He excitedly presented the concept to guitarist Steve Howe, who, fresh from the tightly structured triumphs of Fragile and Close to the Edge, was equally enthralled by the prospect of such a vast canvas. The album would be divided into 4 movements, each corresponding to one of the scriptural pillars described in that footnote: the revealing science of God, the remembering, the ancient, and finally, ritual. This was not just a collection of long songs. It was a unified thematic suite, a sonic interpretation of a complete spiritual cosmology. This is a crucial point. When you listen, do not think of it as 4 separate tracks. Think of it as the 4 movements of a single symphony. They are thematically, lyrically, and musically interconnected. They are chapters in one very, very long book. Understanding this conceptual underpinning is the difference between being lost at sea and navigating by the stars. With the concept in hand, the band retreated to the studio. And here we arrive at a point of immense tension, the very conflict that both fuels the album's genius and is responsible for its perceived flaws. The working environment was, to put it mildly, bizarre. In an attempt to create a pastoral atmosphere in the heart of London, the studio was decorated with farmyard props, picket fences, hay bales, and even a model cow with electronic udders. This eccentric setting perfectly captures the duality of the project, a deeply sincere, spiritual quest undertaken with all the glorious and at times ludicrous excesses of 1970s rock superstardom. This tension is personified in the clash between the album's chief architects, Anderson and Howe, and its most prominent dissenter, keyboardist Rick Wakeman. Anderson and Howe were the true believers, lost in the cosmic grandeur of their vision. Wakeman, a classically trained virtuoso with a love for concise, powerful statements and a pint at the pub, was the skeptic. He saw the sprawling, loosely structured jams as directionless noodling. He found the spiritual subject matter to be impenetrable. He felt his role was being reduced to adding atmospheric textures rather than driving the music forward with his signature pyrotechnics. His disillusionment became so profound that he famously resorted to ordering and eating a curry takeaway on his keyboard rig mid-performance during the subsequent tour. Why is this story so important? Because it represents the central challenge for the listener. You will hear moments in this album that feel like Wakeman's curry. Indulgent, out of place, a bridge too far. You will hear Anderson's ethereal vocals drift into what might seem like mystical nonsense. You will hear passages of ambient exploration that feel untethered from any rhythmic anchor. Wakeman's skepticism is a valid reaction. But your task, as a dedicated listener, is to see past it. It is to understand that the friction between the believers and the skeptic is what creates the album's unique energy. The grounded, powerful, almost cynical contributions of Wakeman, when he does engage, serve as an essential anchor for the flights of fancy undertaken by Anderson and Howe. The moments of sublime beauty are made all the more powerful by the stretches of desolate, alien soundscapes that surround them. You must embrace the descent, the conflict, the sheer audacity of it all. It is part of the tapestry. And if you're finding this deep dive into the band's psychology and creative process illuminating, then it's a good sign that you belong here at PsychProg. Take a second to ensure you're subscribed so you don't miss our future explorations into the heart of this incredible music. Now, let's talk about how to navigate the music itself. My single most effective piece of advice for a first-time deep listener is this. On your first full, focused listen, do not try to hear everything at once. It's impossible. You will be overwhelmed by the sheer density of information. Instead, dedicate your entire listening session to following a single musician. Start with Chris Squire. This is perhaps the easiest entry point. On Tales, Squire's bass is not a rhythm instrument. It is a lead instrument, a co-protagonist. His Rickenbacker sound, drenched in treble and played with a plectrum, cuts through the mix like a melodic buzzsaw. He is rarely just playing the root notes. He is playing counter melodies, intricate arpeggios, and aggressive driving riffs that often form the true backbone of a section, when everything else seems to be floating in space. Follow his bass line through the entirety of The Revealing Science of God, and you will discover a hidden internal logic, a narrative thread that guides you through the shifting musical landscapes. On a subsequent listen, focus solely on Steve Howe. Howe is the album's architect. His guitar work is chameleonic. He moves seamlessly from delicate, classical-inspired acoustic passages to screaming, distorted electric solos. He uses a vast array of guitars, Gibsons, Martins, a Portuguese Vachalia, pedal steel, to paint with an enormous sonic palette. Listen for how he uses volume swells to create orchestral effects, how his melodic fragments appear, disappear, and then reappear later in a different form. He is building a sonic cathedral, and following his work is like watching a master mason lay every stone with intention. Then, turn your attention to Alan White. This was his first full studio album with Yes after replacing the jazz-inflected, polyrhythmic genius of Bill Bruford. White is a different beast entirely. He is a rock drummer, first and foremost. His playing is powerful, direct, and provides an essential muscular foundation that prevents the entire edifice from floating away into the ether. Listen to his work on Ritual, particularly the extended percussive section. It is a tour de force of tribal, propulsive energy that is utterly essential to the track's cathartic power. He is the engine in this fantastical vessel. Finally, listen for John Anderson's voice, not just as a vehicle for lyrics, but as another instrument. His melodies are often unorthodox, soaring over the complex arrangements with an almost angelic purity. Notice how he uses his voice to create texture, harmonizing with himself through multi-tracking to create a celestial choir. The words themselves, though often abstract, are chosen for their phonetic quality as much as their meaning. They are part of the sonic texture, another layer in this impossibly dense arrangement. Once you have done this, once you have experienced the album from the perspective of its individual creators, you are ready to put it all together. You are now equipped to hear the conversation happening between them. You can hear how Squire's aggressive bass line argues with Howe's ethereal guitar, how White's drumming grounds a flighty synthesizer passage from Wakeman, how Anderson's vocal melody weaves it all together. The album ceases to be a wash of sound and becomes a dynamic, living dialogue between five immensely talented and often conflicting musical minds. Now we arrive at a point of great anticipation. If you followed this path, if you've put in the work, what is the ultimate reward? The reward is transcendence. It's the moment the whole becomes infinitely greater than the sum of its parts. This will likely happen for you during the fourth and final movement, Ritual, Nous sommes du soleil. After the cerebral explorations of the first track, the nostalgic dreamscape of the second, and the chaotic primal energy of the third, Ritual is the destination. It is the arrival. The track builds from a simple, beautiful theme, Nous sommes du soleil, we are of the sun, into a monumental crescendo. It contains a ferocious battle section, a hypnotic drum solo, and then a final glorious return to the main theme. It is a moment of profound catharsis. It's the feeling of reaching the summit of that mountain after a long, arduous climb and seeing the world spread out beneath you. It is the resolution of all the album's tension. All the disparate threads, the strange detours, the moments of doubt, they all converge and find their purpose in these final, magnificent minutes. When you feel that, you will finally understand what Yes was striving for. You will have cracked the code. This leads to the final and perhaps most important piece of advice. Learn to forgive its imperfections. Tales from Topographic Oceans is not a perfect album. It is flawed. It is, at times, self-indulgent. It is the product of youthful arrogance and almost comical ambition. But a magnificent failure is infinitely more interesting than a timid success. This album is a testament to a time when a major rock band, at the absolute peak of their commercial power, decided to risk everything on a project of breathtaking, almost insane scope. They chose not to repeat the formula of their previous successes, but to push their art into uncharted territory, with no guarantee of a safe return. Is it pretentious? Of course it is. All great art has a degree of pretension. It pretends to be more than it is, in the hope that it might actually become it. Tales from Topographic Oceans is the sound of a band reaching for the divine and, on occasion, actually brushing it with their fingertips. The moments of awkwardness, the meandering passages, the lyrical obscurities, these are not flaws to be excised. They are the scars of a noble battle. They are the evidence of the struggle. They are what make the moments of pure, unadulterated genius shine so brightly. Don't just tolerate the album's eccentricities. Embrace them as part of its unique, untamed character. So, there you have it. 10 principles woven into a single philosophy for approaching this musical monolith. To recap, without the bullet points they don't deserve, clear your mind of prejudice. Create a sanctuary for listening. Understand the spiritual blueprint. Acknowledge the internal conflict as a creative force. Listen through the ears of each musician, one by one. And finally, embrace the album's glorious, ambitious, and beautiful imperfections. This is not just an album. It is a rite of passage. It separates the casual dabblers from the deep listeners. It demands much from you, but the rewards it offers are immeasurable. It is a journey that, once completed, will permanently alter your understanding of what music can achieve. It will expand the walls of your own musical universe. Now go. Set aside the time. Follow the map I have given you. Climb the mountain. I assure you, the view from the top is worth it. Thank you for joining me on this expedition. If this journey has resonated with you, please solidify your place in the Psych Prog community by subscribing to the channel. Like this video and share it far and wide. There is a universe of profound music waiting to be explored, and we have many more maps to share. Click on our channel page to discover other deep dives into the masterpieces of progressive and psychedelic rock. Until next time, keep listening deeply.